Hello there, Jesus Freak 777. Surprisingly enough, we differ in opinion once again. Censorship has nothing to do with morality. Censorship is about control. Controlling what people can say, controlling what people can hear, and ultimately, by controlling the access to information, attempting to control what people can think. It's about stifling opposition and dissent. Where censorship on YouTube is concerned, I think it's important to remember that primarily YouTube is a commercial organisation. And as such, it wants to keep both its advertisers and its users happy. Unfortunately, when a body like YouTube, or advertisers, or even the government solicits opinion, it isn't the majority who get heard, because they're largely silent. The people who get heard are the ones who shout the loudest, the ones with the axe to grind. And what do they shout about? Their own self-interest, imposing their will on other people. It's very rare that these people are in favour of more freedom, and it's much more likely that they're in favour of tighter control over what other people can say and do. You seem to be in favour of YouTube implementing some form of censorship. Well, I'd say be very careful what you ask for, because you may well get it. You might be offended by people swearing or referring to sexual references. Well, I'm offended by religious bigots who tell me that I'm an abomination just because their dusty old storybook can be interpreted that way. People who tell me that I should be denied the same rights granted to anybody else, and that they'll go out of their way not just to say that, but to make sure that it happens. So I find you're God offensive. So how about you aren't allowed to talk about that? In spite of all the crowing about freedom, it's obvious that Christian fundamentalists and other religious zealots aren't really interested in any kind of freedom at all. In fact, the Christian religion itself is based on the premise that freedom of choice is what led to our downfall as a species. The fundamentalist model of the universe is one of totalitarian philosophy. We're instructed precisely on how we should behave, and what we should believe as truth, regardless of how nonsensical or ridiculous what we're being told actually seems to us. We're given a comprehensive instruction book containing a multitude of rules, all of which must be obeyed to the letter, even those that contradict one another. And all of this is presided over by an ever-watchful, all-seeing overlord, who will punish those who step out of line with a brutality that's promised to be beyond human understanding. So it seems that you Christians actually like your rules. You like your oppression, because that's what your faith is based on. And you can feel superior to everybody else by telling them that they're doomed to eternal damnation if they don't do exactly what you tell them they should. The only freedom that really matters to you is the freedom to be exactly like you. Nothing else is acceptable. As for censorship on YouTube, I can see this going one of several ways. YouTube may well back down in the face of protests from its members and see this exercise in censorship as being a bad idea and one that should be abandoned. Or they may just forge on with it regardless. If they do go ahead with it and it has a deleterious effect on the membership, those who feel adversely impacted will leave. And if enough people do, YouTube will rethink. To do otherwise is commercial suicide. YouTube's original success was founded on its providing of an open forum, and to remove that is tantamount to hacking away at the very root that feeds and supports the organism. So I don't think that this censorship is going to last for very long. As to whether or not censorship is necessary, people who are in favour of censorship generally tend to be in favour of the censorship of other people rather than censorship of themselves. And this is because they feel either that they don't need to be censored, or that censoring them is an infringement of their rights to freedom of expression. I suppose that kind of self-righteous hypocrisy is part of the course. One final thing. If you're worried about your children seeing pornography or hearing swear words or being subjected to any other inappropriate content on the internet, as any parent would and should, I'll suggest to you that the solution is actually very straightforward. Do your job and parent your children. You wouldn't let a child use a sharp craft knife unsupervised, and you wouldn't let them swim in a pool unsupervised. Don't let them use the internet unsupervised. And if you're really, really worried about how the things that children see and hear can damage their fledgling psyches, don't teach them that sex is dirty so they end up with all kinds of neuroses about it and feel ashamed of their bodies. Don't scare them with tales of unending torture inflicted on them by your infinitely sadistic and unforgiving Lord of the Universe. And don't teach them to hate by reading the Bible to them and telling them that what's written there has any basis in morality, reality, or even sanity.